Alrighty, today is the last class. Like Jay was saying, we're gonna graduate from this little course, and whoever participated in the class, I'm gonna send them out a class sticker. If you're watching this on YouTube, and today is what, August 20th, I think, right? You still have some time to request it. Go to my Twitter or go to Brooke's Twitter and look for the form to fill out so we can send it to you. If you're watching this, August 20th of 2020, you're seeing this a month later, too late. No stickers for you, sorry. All right, let's get started with the last chapter. So the last chapter went into a whole bunch of different things, mostly kind of teaching us how to iterate better and more efficient, right? And there's many coding patterns that were shared. So I just wanted to focus on one, and it's comprehensions. And I want to focus on it because it's something really particular to Python, and it's a way of, they call it Pythonic, if I say that correctly, way of iterating through things and going through lists and doing different things. So let me show you how that works. So here we have this variable called h letters, okay? And it's a list. So we're initializing a list. And again, we've gone through all these 20-something classes, so you all know what this is. And you all know what a for loop is, right? So we're gonna use the variable letter, and we're gonna go and iterate through the string human, right? Human, okay? And we're gonna append the letter as we're iterating to the list. So what we'd expect to see is a list where every indexing location has a letter in it. So let's run it and see what happens. And just as we expected, right? It iterates and it tells you human, right? For every letter, puts it in its location. All right. So that's the typical way we do fors. That's the typical way I taught you how to append stuff to a list, which we use a lot when we're parsing different artifacts. This is nothing new. Now, what comprehensions do for us, it changes that a little bit, right? Look at this. It looks totally different. Don't get confused. You'll be like, what is this? I don't know what's happening. Don't worry. We'll get to it. We're going to have the letter, right? The variable h letters. And we're going to kind of initialize in a sense, but kind of here we define that this is going to be a list. You see the brackets there? It's going to be a list. And what's going to be inside of that list? Okay. It's going to be the variable for letter. It's going to be inside of that list, and that will be composed of the results of this iteration. For letter in human, right? You're going to put that into letter, okay? And we're going to print those letters, and let me show you that. Okay, so notice, and let me see if I can take this out here. There we go. Notice the following. And let me hide this so it's not as confusing. See here how this output on the left is the same output. Oops, sorry about that. There we go. Is the same output as this one on the right. The same output, right? The difference is that with a comprehension, it's less code, okay? And like less lines in a sense, okay? Also, with iterations, they are faster. So the interpreter is optimized to deal with these iterations, to make them faster, okay? They're easier to read to a point, okay? And I say that because right now it might not be easy for you to read this. You're like, what's happening here? But as you get used to it, they're pretty easy to read. You can say, okay, H letters, we're doing a list, and it's gonna contain whatever this for iteration, the results from it are gonna be inside of here, right? So it's pretty easy to understand. But you can put comprehensions inside comprehensions, and I would recommend not to do that, because then things can get pretty complicated, and you're like, oh, this is a gnarly comprehension, I'm gonna do this, and you'll feel tempted, but don't do it. Then later it's harder to maintain. Okay, so that's a comprehension. So let me give you some other examples on that. Let's look now at, let me make this, there we go. Let's make this bigger. All right, so we have a comprehension. We have a variable called squares, right? And it's gonna be a list, we know that, okay? And that list, we're gonna iterate on the range from 0 all the way to the 10, right? And what's gonna happen is gonna be the multiplication of the values themselves, right? So we're squaring the that output. So let the number. So let's run it. Does that make sense, right? It goes from 0, 0, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So 10. It goes 10 times as the range explains. Again, we discussed this in a previous class, right? So range is pretty much, okay, we're going to go from 0 to whatever it is, right? So the 10 values. So from 0 to 9 makes 10. Perfect. And as you remember, you can also, these ranges, you can start at any number, do them in reverse, do them forward. In this case, we're doing a pretty simple range from 0 to 9 or 10 values, same thing. All right, and we're taking those values, 0, 1, 2, 3, and we're multiplying it by themselves to make it square. How do we do that as a for loop? We initialize the squares variable as a list. We do our for, our iteration through the range, and we append the results of that multiplication to the list, and we print it out. So if we do that, you'll see that we get the exact same output on these, right? So it's another example. So this example shows us a pattern. What's the pattern in here when you're doing comprehensions? Here's the template, right? You're gonna have your values, right? That variable. We're gonna have for the value, a particular value in a collection, this is what's gonna happen, that expression, you know, multiply, do whatever it is, right? In the for loops, it's the same thing. You have the value, so this value from the comprehension corresponds to the value here in your for loop, where you're initializing the list in the same way you're doing it here with the brackets. And then for values in collection, which is the same thing you have here, okay? And then values, I put append as append, and then expression. Hey, Brooke, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna pause the recording for a second here. All right, so well, this is pretty clear, right? We have the template, and if you have any for loop that you worked on and you want to turn it into a comprehension, follow this pattern. Take where you initialize that list, put it here, and open that that list for some work in it. Put your iteration and then put your expression, and it turns magically into a comprehension. And it's easier to read at the beginning. It is, like I said before, if this is the first time you look at comprehensions, you're like, what's happening? But as you get used to it, it gets easier to kind of understand what's happening. Okay. I want to show something else. What was it? We have that. We have that. Oh, let me do this. So let's do one more thing. I didn't have it on my notes, but I have it on my head. So let's do it real quick. You can also put conditionals in here, right? And let's see if I can do this right, because I'm going always when I go, it's something that's happened in this class. When I go off script, I always end up messing it up, but I still risk it. So let's go for it. All right. Maybe you're familiar with, actually, no, I lied. I actually did I save it? No, I didn't, but that's fine. All right. So let me show you something pretty neat here. I don't know if you're familiar with the modulo operation, modulo operation. I'm not sure it's modulo or modulo, because me speaking Spanish, but M-O-D-U-L-O, modulo, I think it is. Operation, what does that do? So let's say you have the number 31, right? And you want to know if that number, it's a even or odd. So you use the modulo operation, all right?
Sorry, I just noticed a question in the chat from a few minutes ago.
Sure, go ahead.
Do the spaces in the brackets serve a purpose, or is it for looks only?
It's good, and it's just, I mean, it will work either way. It looks, actually, it looks, maybe just run it, right? So it works either way, but it's, I think, don't quote me on it, but I think PEP, the guideline kind of tells you to do that because it's better, I think. But no, the space doesn't do any difference. But I prefer it because it doesn't look all scrunched up, like all on top of each other, you know? So that's what I would recommend, to kind of give that space there, but it's up to you. It's easier for me to read. All right. So hopefully that answers the question. Yeah. So let's look at this at the modulo operation. So it does the division and it gives me the remainder, right? So if you make a division, if the remainder is 1, that means that our number is odd, right? Let's take, for example, 30. And we're taking small numbers, right? So because we know immediately if they're odd or not, even or not, I should say. Yeah, both. If you get a 0, that means the number is odd, right? That's pretty obvious, right? So that's what the modulo operation does, right? So what we can do is put a conditional here. So if let's see here. I wish I had my example here. If if x, actually I should change this, right? If x is the modulo 2, right? So what are we saying? All right, I think I muted myself. Can you hear me? All right, hopefully. All right, so what are we doing here? If the value, right, it's it's odd, I mean, it's even, then show it. So let's run it, see if I did this right. Oh, I did something wrong here. Oops, I don't need this here. There we go, sorry. All right, so I'm actually getting here, right, go back, right. So what are we doing here? We're getting here the odd numbers, yeah. So we're getting our odd numbers, right? Perfect. So notice that the point of this is not so much to go into how modulo works. The point of this is to show, look, you can have your iteration and you can have a conditional with that iteration and then put those results in your list as you see fit, right? Does that make sense? The change here for us down here will be, okay, so if x, right, I'll do the modulo for it, right, to get those. Actually, it's not a square anymore, but anyways, it don't matter. All right, so, and yeah, and just run it and see what happens, right? You see that? So in the same way you put this conditional here at the end, I mean, sorry, your conditional here at the end of your for, right? You can do the same thing in your comprehension, right? You can do more stuff on top of that, but at that point, I think it gets too complicated in my opinion. But that's pretty much it. That's all I had for chapter 12, right? We learned, kind of recapping, how to go from our for loops, right? Regular for loops, appending into a list, and how to use a comprehension. It's one line of code, it's faster, it's easier to read, more efficient. And as you are working through your artifacts, you'll find yourself looping like crazy. As we reviewed to the whole class, right? This, what, 20 something days we spent on working on this. You will go through a SQLite database and have to kind of print out or parse out thousands and thousands of potentially evidentiary records. Well, you're gonna do that with a for loop. And we discussed in class how to do that, how to open a SQLite database, how to pull those records, how to put conditionals on it and filter them down for what we need. If you're doing protobuf, same thing. We take all those results that are responsive to what we care about in the locations that are, where we need them in those dictionaries, those key value pairs, and then we put them in a list and then we print them out. And the last thought for the whole class is, look, think about how far you've come, right? Some of the folks that started in person and moved to online when they started, many of us here, we had no idea what a variable was. We have no idea what a dictionary was. Well, we thought a dictionary was just a book with definitions, but through the class, we learned what dictionaries are in the Python sense. We learned how to do a context manager and how to open databases, close databases, open file, close files. We learned how to search for things on a directory or search for files. in a file system, or, all sorts of things. So you've gone pretty far. That being said, this class was just the beginning. The main use you're going to find it is as you're doing your work. You will find a database, or you'll find some protobuf data that the main tools are not equipped yet for them. Then you can do it yourself. We have a community. We have the Discord channel. You can put your questions, and you can hit me up on Twitter, and I'll be more than happy to work with you. And if you see so fit to make some scripts, and you want to add them to ALEAP and iLeap, I'll be more than happy to assist you in doing so. I have videos on how to do that too. So again, thank you so much for sticking with me and with Brooke through all these days, for all these months. I think I'm the person that got the most out of it. So thank you for letting me guide you through the process. And hopefully after our break, maybe we can do some SQL work and do some new stuff. Thank you so much. I don't know if Brooke wants to say a few words before we finish the class fully.
Yeah, just thank you all. I'm not good with words. So thanks. Thanks for joining the adventure. So
absolutely.
Thank you, Briggs, so much. It was really, like Briggs keeps on saying it was my idea, but I don't think it was at all. We'll go back and forth about this. It really just started out with me being interested in learning Python, and Briggs being like, I would love to teach you, and him just being that generous. And then him being even more generous and saying like, well, maybe other people want to learn as well. So it was really Briggs being the one to be like, I want to, share my knowledge. And he was also like, and I want to, refresh my own skills. So, really a big bravo to him. I just applied the Zoom. Thank you, Briggs.
Oh, you're too kind, and I'm happy we did this. The videos are now, this last video will up shortly, and if anybody needs a refresher on anything, you can go through the videos, and there's a description below them. Also, Brooke is gonna, not now obviously, but at some point just gonna finish that syllabus, and we'll put that link out there, so you can go to the syllabus, and you want to, hey, I got a proto video 18, whatever, I'm just making that up. Oh, we got a SQL database, oh, video 12 and 13, whatever, and you can go there, refresh it. Usually they're less than 30 minutes or less, so I'm pretty happy.
I'll send that together with the link for the stickers. So.
Oh, perfect. That'd be great.
Rather than blast, have two separate. We'll talk about this more in a little bit, but yeah, rather than two separate blasts, I'll just blast them together.
Absolutely. I'm all right. So let me stop recording. And again, thank you everybody.